The last outpost. The emergency lights cast an eerie red glow throughout Nova Base's command center as Commander Elena Reyes studied the holographic display. It showed what remained of humanity's most distant outpost, a collection of domed structures nestled in the valley of an alien world 70 light-years from Earth. Once home to 500 colonists, now barely 200 remained. "Status report," Elena demanded, her voice steady despite the exhaustion etched into her face. 3 months of continuous attacks had taken their toll. Chief Engineer Marcus Okafor shook his head, the motion making the shadows dance across his face. "Power grids down to 28% capacity. Life support is holding in the central sectors, but we've lost the outer research domes completely. If we lose another reactor..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Elena nodded, her dark eyes scanning the room where her remaining command staff worked desperately at their stations. They were good people, scientists, engineers, and colonists who had volunteered to build humanity's future among the stars. None of them had signed up for war. "Any response to our distress signal?" she asked, turning to Communications Officer Devi Sharma. "Nothing, Commander," Devi replied, her fingers working constantly across her console. "The quantum entanglement array is still operational, but there's been no acknowledgement from Earth control. The signal should have reached them weeks ago." Elena said nothing, but the weight of understanding settled over the room. Earth wasn't coming. At 70 light-years, even with humanity's most advanced chips, a rescue mission would take years. By then, there would be nothing left to save. Beyond the reinforced walls of the command center, something screeched, a sound that had become horribly familiar over the past 3 months. The swarm was prodding their defenses again. "They're testing the North Barrier," reported Security Chief Alexander Volkov, his muscular frame hunched over the tactical display. 3 of those tank-sized ones, and about 24 smaller units. "Redirect defense drones to Sector 7, Elena ordered. "What's our ammunition status?" "Pulse rifles at 22% capacity," Alexander replied grimly. "Automated turrets are at 15%. We've been converting mining explosives into makeshift bombs, but without more fabrication materials." Again, the unfinished sentence hung in the air. Without more supplies, they were slowly but surely running out of ways to fight back. Dr. Lydia Chen, the colony's head xenobiologist, burst into the command center, clutching a tablet. "Commander, I've found something," she said, her voice tight with a mixture of excitement and fear. "I've been analyzing the latest tissue samples from the swarm creatures we killed yesterday." Elena gestured for her to continue. "They're not just evolving to resist our weapons," Lydia explained, connecting her tablet to the main display. A complex molecular structure appeared, rotating slowly in the holographic projection. "They're evolving specifically to counter each new defense we deploy. The rate of adaptive mutation is beyond anything naturally possible. These aren't just animals. They're engineered." The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. "Are you saying someone sent them?" Elena asked quietly. "I'm saying someone made them," Lydia corrected. "And whoever it was designed them to adapt to any threat, to learn from each encounter and become stronger. This isn't just an alien species defending its territory. This is a weapon." Elena stared at the molecular display, understanding dawning. "A weapon test," she whispered. "We're their laboratory mice." From outside came another screech, louder this time, followed by a thunderous impact that shook dust from the ceiling. The attacks were intensifying. "Get everyone to the emergency bunkers," Elena ordered. "We need to consolidate our resources and personnel in the central hub. Mark, I need you to reconfigure the reactor outputs. Everything we've got goes to shields and weaponry. Divi, keep broadcasting that distress signal. Add everything Dr. Chen has discovered." "You still think Earth might respond?" Alexander asked, not quite managing to keep the bitterness from his voice. Elena met his gaze steadily. "I think we owe it to whoever comes after us to know what happened here. Even if help isn't coming, We need to warn Earth about what they might be facing. As her team rushed to obey her orders, Alina remained alone at the command terminal, staring at the colony map. So much lost already. So many lives gone. The swarm had first appeared 3 months ago, emerging from the northern mountains. The initial attack seemed random, almost exploratory. But with each assault, the creatures became more focused, more efficient. They adapted to sonic weapons within days. Pulse rifles took longer, nearly 2 weeks, but eventually the swarm developed thicker carapaces that could withstand the energy bursts. They learned to avoid minefields, to target power generators, to attack in patterns designed to defy the colony's defenders. Intelligence, artificial or otherwise, guided these creatures, and whoever controlled them was watching, learning, measuring humanity's response. Alina's fingers flew across the terminal, accessing the colony's secure files. If Nova Base fell, when it fell, something needed to survive. The truth needed to reach Earth, even if it took decades. She recorded everything they had learned about the swarm, compressing the data and encrypting it with her command codes. Then she accessed the colony's emergency launch bay, where 3 small automated probes waited, their last-ditch communication option. Another impact rocked the base, harder this time. Warning lights flashed across her terminal. The North Barrier had been breached. "Commander." Alexander's voice came through her communicator. "They're through. We can't hold them." "Fall back to the central hub," Alina ordered, finalizing the probe's launch sequence. "Protect the civilians. I'll be there shortly." As the sounds of battle grew closer, Alina completed her final task. The probe would launch with a simple message, along with all the data they had collected. They are coming. They learn. They adapt. Prepare. She looked one last time at the colony map, at the blinking dots representing her people huddled in the central hub, surrounded by the advancing swarm. They would make their last stand there, buying time with their lives. Time for the probe to escape. Time for the warning to reach Earth. As Alina ran toward the central hub, the automated probe shot into the night sky above Nova Base, accelerating rapidly until it was just another star in the alien constellation. Behind her, the swarm poured through the breach, their chittering cries echoing through the abandoned corridors. Alina knew Earth might never receive their message, and even if they did, help would come too late for Nova Base. But humanity would know. They would be warned. And perhaps somewhere in the vast bureaucracy of Earth's government, someone would care enough to act. She reached the reinforced doors of the central hub just as the main power grid failed. In the darkness, lit only by emergency backup lighting, Alina joined her people for their final stand. They had done all they could. Now it was up to Earth. Earth's answer. Admiral Marcus Chen stood rigidly before the World Defense Council, his decorated uniform a stark contrast to the casual attire of the 12 council members seated at the curved table. Through the panoramic windows behind them, Earth's gleaming orbital stations shone against the blackness of space, monuments to humanity's technological achievements. Achievements that meant nothing if they abandoned their own. "You're asking us to commit nearly half of Earth's military resources to a rescue mission 70 light-years away," said Councilor Rivera, her tone making it clear how absurd she found the request. "For a colony that's probably already lost. I'm asking us to honor our commitment to the people of Nova Base," Marcus replied, his voice calm despite the anger burning inside him. "When we sent them out as humanity's vanguard, we promised they wouldn't face the unknown alone." "The distress signal is already 3 months old," countered Councilor Zhang. "By the time any fleet reached them." 2 weeks, Marcus interrupted. The council chamber fell silent. "Excuse me?" asked Council Chair Okonkwo, leaning forward. 2 weeks, Marcus repeated, nodding to his aide, who activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. "The quantum fold drive prototype is ready. It's been successfully tested within our solar system. With it, we can reach Nova Base in 14 days. Murmurs filled the room as the council members studied the technical specifications floating before them. The quantum fold drive had been theoretical when Nova Base was established 5 years ago. Even now, it remained classified at the highest levels. This technology is untested for long-range travel, objected Counselor Zhang. The risks are mine to take, Marcus finished. I'm volunteering to lead the mission myself. Chair Okonkwo's eyes narrowed. Why this personal investment, Admiral? You've built your career avoiding reckless action. Marcus hesitated, then decided on honesty. My daughter, Major Sophia Chen, is Nova Base's tactical officer. But I'd be standing here making the same argument if she weren't. Those colonists trusted us when they accepted their mission. We owe them the same trust now. The council chamber grew quiet again, but this time with a different quality. The silence of reflection rather than shock. Even with this drive, said Councilor Rivera, her tone softened, what can one ship do against a threat that's overwhelmed an entire colony? Marcus allowed himself a slight smile. I'm not proposing one ship, Counselor. I'm proposing Operation Homecoming. A battle fleet of 40 vessels, all retrofitted with the quantum fold drive. Enough firepower to face whatever's attacking Nova Base. The holographic display shifted, showing schematics for the fleet, cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels, all modified to accommodate the experimental drive. This is substantial, Chair Okonkwo said carefully. The resource allocation alone has already been prepared, Marcus finished. The ships are ready. The crews are volunteers. All we need is your authorization. The council members exchanged glances, their resistance visibly wavering. If we commit to this, Councilor Zhang said slowly, and it fails, Earth will be vulnerable. If we don't commit to this, Marcus countered, then we've already failed. Not just Nova Base, but the promise of who we are as a species. We don't abandon our own. Not ever. Chair Okonkwo studied Marcus for a long moment, then called for a vote. Marcus held his breath as hands raised one by one. When the final count came in, 7-5 in favor, he allowed himself a momentary sense of relief. Operation Homecoming is authorized, Admiral, Okonkwo announced formally. God help you if you're wrong about that drive. Marcus saluted sharply. We launch in 24 hours. The space dock hummed with activity as the final preparations for departure were completed. 40 ships, the largest extrasolar fleet in Earth's history, hovered in formation, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. At their center, the flagship Intrepid waited, its engines already warming for the unprecedented journey. On the Intrepid's bridge, Marcus reviewed the final readiness reports. Around him, his crew worked with disciplined urgency, each aware of what was at stake. All ships report ready, Admiral, announced his executive officer, Commander Diane Jackson. Quantum fold drives are synchronized and powered. Marcus nodded, then activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice would reach every ship, every crew member committed to this mission. This is Admiral Chen. In 5 minutes, we embark on the most important journey humanity has ever undertaken. Many of you volunteered because you have friends or family on Nova Base. Others join because you believe in our responsibility to those we send into the unknown. All of you understand what we face. He paused, looking around at the determined faces of his bridge crew. The quantum fold technology is new. The enemy is unknown. The colony's situation may be even worse than we fear. But today, we prove that distance means nothing when our people need us. Today, we keep our promise. As he ended the transmission, Commander Jackson approached. Sir, she said quietly, I've been analyzing the data packet from Nova Base. There's something odd about these creatures. Their adaptation rate is engineered. Marcus finished, studying the report on his terminal. I know. That's why Operation Homecoming isn't just a rescue mission. Jackson's eyes widened slightly. Sir, whoever created these creatures is testing humanity's responses, Commander. They're measuring our strength, our tactics, our resolve. Marcus's eyes hardened. We're going to show them exactly who they're dealing with. The final countdown began. Across the fleet, Quantum fold drives activated simultaneously, creating a cascading distortion in space-time. For a moment, the 40 ships seemed to stretch, their forms elongating impossibly as reality itself bent around them. Then, with a flash of light, Earth's mightiest fleet vanished, hurtling across the galaxy at speeds once thought impossible. The journey was not without cost. 2 ships were lost during the fold jumps, their drives failing catastrophically. But 14 days after leaving Earth, exactly as Marcus had promised, the remaining 38 ships emerged from fold space near Nova Base. What they found stunned even the most prepared among them. The colony was nearly overrun. Only the central hub remained intact, surrounded by a seething mass of alien creatures, some as small as dogs, others the size of tanks, all moving with terrifying coordination. The outer structures lay in ruins, evidence of a desperate, months-long defense. Life signs, Marcus demanded, staring at the tactical display. Faint readings from the central hub, reported the sensor officer. Maybe 100 survivors, heavily shielded. They've bunkered deep. The swarm creatures are converging on their position, added Jackson. They'll breach the final defenses within hours. Marcus studied the enemy movements, noting their patterns. These aren't random attacks. They're probing, testing, learning. He turned to his weapons officer. What worked against the last group won't work against the next. We need to hit them with everything, simultaneously. Different weapons, different approaches. Don't give them time to adapt. The battle plan formed quickly. The fleet would divide into strike teams, each using different weapon systems. Some would deploy troops with experimental weaponry. Others would provide orbital bombardment with varying energy signatures. All ships, commence Operation Homecoming, Marcus ordered. Let's bring our people home. The fleet descended like avenging angels. Precision strikes from orbit vaporized the largest concentrations of swarm creatures. Dropships delivered assault teams to secure a perimeter around the central hub. The swarm responded with terrifying speed, already adapting to the initial attacks. But the human forces kept changing tactics, switching weapons, refusing to fall into patterns. On the colony surface, Marines fought their way to the central hub's reinforced doors. When they finally broke through, they found the survivors, exhausted, wounded, but alive, led by a determined woman who identified herself as Commander Elena Reyes. Earth came, she whispered, disbelief and hope mingling in her voice as she stared at the armored Marines. Earth came, confirmed the squad leader. Admiral Chen sends his regards. The evacuation began immediately. Shuttles descended through gaps in the fighting, collecting civilians and the wounded. Meanwhile, scientific teams gathered samples and data, determined to understand exactly what they were fighting. In orbit, aboard the Intrepid, Marcus coordinated the battle. The swarm's numbers seemed endless, but their adaptations couldn't keep pace with the sheer variety of attacks the human fleet unleashed. Slowly, the tide began to turn. When a battered transport finally delivered the colony's command staff to the flagship, Marcus was waiting. His eyes found his daughter first, thinner, one arm in a makeshift sling, but alive. Their embrace was brief but fierce. Then he turned to Commander Reyes, who stood tall despite her obvious exhaustion. "Your warning saved us," he told her. "If we hadn't known, they were engineered to adapt." "Who made them?" Elena asked. "Do we know?" Marcus shook his head. "Not yet, but we will. And they'll learn what happens when you target humanity." As the evacuation continued, scientists made a breakthrough. The swarm wasn't just a weapon, it was a test. The creatures carried sophisticated data-gathering implants, transmitting information to an unknown location. Humanity was being assessed, its military capabilities measured against a controllable enemy. "Someone's preparing for a larger conflict," concluded Dr. Lydia Chen, presenting her findings to Admiral Chen and the fleet commanders. This was just the first probe. Marcus nodded grimly. "Then they've learned something today. They've learned we don't abandon our people. We fight, we adapt, and we survive." The last of Nova Base's survivors were evacuated, and Marcus gave the order that would send a message to whoever watched from the shadows. The fleet unleashed its full power, cleansing the planet's surface of the swarm in a coordinated bombardment that left nothing but scorched earth. As the fleet prepared for the journey home, Marcus stood with Alina and Sophia on the Intrepid's observation deck, watching the remains of Nova Base fade into the distance. "We'll rebuild," he promised. "Not here. This world belongs to the past now, but somewhere else, further out. And next time, we'll be ready." Elena nodded slowly. "They'll come again, whoever they are." "Yes," Marcus agreed. "But when they do, they won't find isolated outposts. They'll find humanity united, prepared, and waiting." He turned to face the stars that stretched endlessly before them, and they'll learn that challenging Earth was their first and final mistake. As the fleet activated their quantum fold drives for the return journey, a message traveled ahead of them, a message to Earth, and to whatever intelligence had engineered the swarm. Humanity had answered the call of their distant children. They had come through the darkness between stars to protect their own. And they would do it again, whenever and wherever necessary. Would you like me to create any additional content for this story, such as title options or YouTube descriptions? The Council representatives conferred privately before Thessalor addressed them again. The Council will convene a special session to address Earth's status. Your presence will be required, Captain, not in the observer section, but on the speaking floor. When they returned to the Defiance, Alina found her crew celebrating their success. Not just the military victory, but the diplomatic breakthrough it represented. "They're actually taking us seriously," Marcus said, disbelief coloring his voice. "Did you see their faces when you mentioned seventh-dimensional folding? They'll try to acquire our technology," Commander Park warned. "Through diplomacy first, then espionage if that fails." "Let them try," Alina replied. "The Infinity Crucible is just our first breakthrough. By the time they understand it, we'll have moved beyond." Within days, news of the Earth vessel's capabilities spread throughout Council space. Species that had ignored humanity for decades suddenly sought diplomatic relations. Trade delegations arrived at Earth's embassies. Research collaborations were proposed. 3 weeks later, Alina stood once more before the Galactic Council, not as a petitioner, but as an invited speaker. The chamber that had once echoed with laughter at humanity's expense now hummed with anticipation. "The Council recognizes Captain Alina Reyes of Earth," announced the Overseer. Elena surveyed the gathering of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. For too long, humanity has been dismissed as technologically primitive, culturally insignificant, and evolutionarily immature. Today, I'm not here to argue against those assessments or plead for recognition. She activated a holographic display showing the Defiance and 3 newly commissioned sister ships. "I'm here to inform you that humanity will no longer accept arbitrary limitations on our participation in galactic affairs. We have demonstrated both technological capability and ethical responsibility. We expect to be treated accordingly." The Overseer's swirling form shifted colors in what Alina had learned indicated thoughtfulness. Earth's demonstration of seventh-dimensional technology represents an unprecedented leap forward. The Council acknowledges this achievement and recognizes that our previous assessment of human capabilities was incomplete. In light of this reassessment, Thessalor added, the Council proposes full membership status for Earth, with all associated rights and responsibilities. As formal proceedings continued, Marcus leaned close to Alina. 17 rejections, and now they're practically begging us to join. Amazing what a little seventh-dimensional travel can accomplish. Elena smiled slightly. This is just the beginning. Humanity has spent too long looking up at the stars in wonder. It's time we took our place among them, not as late arrivals to be tolerated, but as equals to be respected. In the months that followed, Earth vessels with Infinity Crucible drives began appearing throughout Council space, conducting trade, research, and diplomatic missions. The technology it had once seemed impossibly beyond human grasp became the foundation for a new era of expansion. The galaxy had laughed at humanity for generations. Now, they watched in silent amazement as the species they had dismissed reshaped the future of interstellar civilization, one dimensional fold at a time.